I'm at 223 Harman Boulevard in Dayton, Ohio, Oakwood, doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for any structural issues mainly, anything that would be of concern to the buyer. Our access point here, there's a couple stacks. The main stack is towards the front, but it doesn't look like that cap's ever been out. So we're going through, this is a 1.5-inch stack that goes down into a 2 to 2.5, looks like. And then, but there is a Y going in right here. It should actually get bigger once we get through, as long as the camera will make it through this first little bit here. But it may not. So I'm going to have to pause the video for a minute and make an adjustment. Okay, just had to check the says the little standoff on the camera, and so we're going in through that Y like we just discussed. Now the line goes in, and now I'm just hoping that it'll go down through all this turn, but doesn't seem like it will. Which is what we have a problem with for kitchen lines anyway. It's just too small for the camera to go through. So now I'm going to have to pause the video. I may end up just starting it all over from a different access point. But I'm going to pause for now. Okay, we have just moved over right into the other small 2-inch stack, just around the on the adjacent wall. And so I'm going to see if the camera will go through this one. I'm not really sure if it will or not. Probably not, and of course it won't, because these lines get so packed full of stuff. Looks like one of these is the sink line. This looks like it's got a little more stuff in it. And so these smaller lines like this with the cast iron end up having small holes in them like this, where they've just, without being cleaned, they are narrowed because of all the rust. They're barely bigger than the camera to begin with, and then when they get the rust on them like that, you can't get through them. So I'm going to have to pause this again and see if we can go through the main stack, which it looks like it has never been off. There's been access to these probably to be cleaned, but never the main stack. So I'm going to pause the video again, and we're going to try to make another move. you can lower the frequency of those treatments to, you know, every other year or something like that. Based off of what I've seen, there are a lot of roots in a couple spots, but if this has never been opened at anywhere besides those smaller connections, then if it has been cleaned, it was just kind of had a hole poked in it and nothing major. So you can see we've made it all the way to the main. And so we'll continue to pull back, and we'll make note that, you know, those really small amounts of roots that you see sometimes, those, you know, doing a cleaning won't even touch those. It'll just go right on past it. You can do jetting. Sometimes jetting will work pretty well on those, but they're so minute that they, you know, the amount really doesn't cause any resistance to the cleaner head. But jetting is a lot more expensive than having a mechanical cleaning done, which is just like a snake that they put in there with like a kind of like a big drill. And so that's what I mean, stuff like that. See how it's just kind of flopping around in there? That's not, you know, you would have no resistance if you were trying to clean that, and so you wouldn't be able to tell it was there. A powerful jetting would probably be able to get rid of that if they went out, you know, the whole 120 feet or so. For the most part, it's most of these, it's very, very minimal, minor root intrusion. We just had a couple spots, I believe, about 60 feet, and then somewhere between 50 and 60 feet, I think there were a couple connections that required, those are what would require the cleaning. See there, just a little bit of root intrusion in the beginning. There are permanent solutions to get rid of roots, but those are essentially having it lined after it's cleaned, and or digging up and repairing the line, or replacing it essentially. And so those are pretty costly. They're not really, there's not a whole lot of difference in cost between the two, but the liner would basically put a coating on the inside of the pipe that prevents any of the openings that were there. It would prevent the roots from getting in there any longer. And obviously replacing the line would just be digging it up and replacing it with a newer material, PVC. But people have been maintaining clay sewers like this for a very, very long time. As long as you keep up on it and don't let the roots get out of hand, they shouldn't cause any major damage to the line. People clean them on a regular basis, and it's just kind of a maintenance thing. And there we go at 60 feet. So this is probably one of the heaviest here. It's 60 feet. And one more coming up that was pretty heavy also. Here you can see I'm kind of starting to grow down the flow line. It's 60 and 50 feet. You can see this here. What I'm going to do, because that's kind of holding some water there, I'm going to go turn the water off for a second. And we can take a look at that section of pipe where the root intrusion is, right here at 50 feet. We'll see if that water level drops. I think there's just enough root intrusion there in that spot that is causing it to kind of hold a little bit of water. So I'm going to pause the video for a second, turn the water off. Okay, as you can see, the water level has dropped, but you can see the root intrusion here. And so really, 50 and 60 feet are the two spots that had the biggest issue. A bunch of root intrusion there. And so things were building up in that spot also because there's root intrusion along the bottom. So I'm going to recommend a cleaning for those two major spots at 50 and 60 feet and regular maintenance beyond that. Should be coming back into the cast iron there. Here we are. So I am going to go ahead and turn the water back on and we'll watch it flow through the cast iron here. We're going to sit here and wait for that water to show up. Shouldn't take very long. But at any rate, we already know by running it that it's dropped already after running it for such a long time there. But as we watch it, I don't foresee anything. We're just with some connections out there to the right. And just have a little bit of build up here. Nothing major. Looks pretty normal for this age of cast iron, like I mentioned earlier. You can see the water escaping normally. That camera lens is only about a ½ inch off the bottom of the pipe, and so I'm not really. It wouldn't take much water for that to build up, and so it looks like we have already come back past that connection. So that's why there's no longer any water on it. This would all be coming straight down this stack then from here in, and you can see how wide open the line looks. Everything looks really good. Here we are at the cap. So the line looks good structurally. Everything is intact and open. You just have some root intrusion between 50 and 60 feet that I would recommend it be cleaned. And then from then on out, you would probably want to do about a yearly treatment of some root X or something similar, and then a reinspection after a few years just to kind of check to see how much the roots are growing, and it'll give you a good indication of essentially how much or how often you would need to do maintenance on the line. But I mean, structurally the line is intact. It looks pretty good. That one spot at 50 feet looks like it's the closest to backing up, but then at 60 feet has the most coverage. So again, I'm going to recommend a cleaning and yearly maintenance and a reinspection in a few years to check the condition to make sure or to gauge future maintenance schedules. So that'll end the inspection at 223 Harman Boulevard in Oakwood, Ohio.